2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is March 29, 2022. With you today is myself, Carl. Glad to be back with Stevie Nick.
It's so good to hear your voice, Carl. I'm sure everyone, when you started, was just like, oh, thank goodness.
I'm not sure that's true. I listened back to your show from last week, and I do not say this lightly. First off, solo podcasting is the hardest thing to do ever. But typically, it's also not super entertaining. And you crushed it. You knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, well, I had a little help from my nifty friend guitar. It is hard to do by yourself. And I'm not ashamed to say it because I know sometimes we take pride in how little prep we do for our show. Like, I thought I had to think that one through a little bit of exactly what was going to happen. And you know what, Carl, for as much smack as we talked about the trade deadline, thank goodness it was busy last week.
Yeah, it popped off.
It went. And I am so grateful because it gave me a lot to talk about by myself, basically.
Yeah, and your friend the guitar, which was great.
And my friend the guitar, which was fun.
Yeah, I learned things like how many chords there were.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot more chords than what I did last week, Carl.
I know, but there was some that you mentioned. I was like, oh, you know what? It does go all the way because there's no H chord, right? It stops at G.
Yes. But
like B minor.
Yeah.
I've heard of B minor though.
I like the B minor chord.
Which like I know I mentioned on Twitter today when I live tweeted me listening to the show. You can find that on our official Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. I mentioned it because you said some of you may notice that I have tuned my guitar down half a step. To which I said, but you were like, I'm not going to tell you why. And I don't even know what that means. So you could tell me why, and I probably wouldn't even know what your reason was.
Basically, like it's tuned normally, but it's just it's tuned lower.
It's like but it's not a full octave. It's a half.
No, it's a half. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So.
Which keeps it kind of like close, like within the range of normal. It's hard to kind of tell the difference, but I like to keep it a half step down. Just I find it works better for my voice.
Oh, see, that makes sense. That one I can make sense with. But anyways, a great job last week. Very busy trade deadline. But I'm glad to be back. I mean, I'm not glad that vacation's over, but I'm glad that at least my first day back from vacation can be with you.
And you were on a beach, Carl?
I was on a beach. Yeah. We went to Puerto Vallarta for the week. And it was warm, sunny. What
is your like beach activity? Like, are you a sleeper? Are you a reader? Are you a like walker? Like what do you do on the beach for that long?
So every day, I'm not a sitter around doing nothinger. That's for sure. My routine that we got into here was we'd get up, we'd go up to one of the lounges, get some coffee, relax, get a first breakfast. Then once everyone that we were with was awake, we'd go down and get second breakfast, then head to our chairs, which were like poolside, read for a little bit because the sun needed to come around the side of the building. Once the ocean was in the sun, we'd go ride the waves a little bit.
Yeah.
Hit the pool, lunch, pool activities, some more wave riding, back for a little afternoon siesta, some dinner, some games at night, repeat the next day.
Wow. So you're right. You're not a sitter. That's an active, those are active days.
Yeah. I brought 3 books with me and I read almost an entire one.
Was one of them Scotty?
No, Scotty's still on the shelf.
We're going to read that book one day, but we're going to be old and gray and podcasting will be long dead.
It's true. But hey, it's there. It's waiting for me.
Yeah, mine too.
But yeah, it was good. Anyways, we've got hockey to talk about.
We do.
Let's start with some unfortunate news that came out last night. Eugene Melnyk, owner of the Ottawa Senators, passing away. Certainly his health was a thing that was noted, right? There was the Ottawa Senators fan that donated a kidney to him. What was it, 2017?
Yeah, that was like 6 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah, five years ago or so. So that happened, but I don't think anyone was fully expecting this to happen. So certainly a surprise to the hockey community, especially Senators fans. And obviously our thoughts are with the Melnyks and all of them.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, very shocking. I mean, we knew that he had his issues in 2017 with his health. And like, I guess people's, personal health is not something that they're not really stories that journalists really kind of try and chase down. It's a pretty private thing. But still pretty shocking news to kind of just break late last night. He was so young, like 65.
Yeah.
Just, that sucks, man. It's too young, especially these days. And like you said, our hearts go out to his family and to the Ottawa organization.
For sure. Now, I'm going to ask this, and if you agree, we'll carry on. Is it too soon to talk about what this impact has on the Senators organization?
No, I don't think so. I mean, he was a very active part of the organization. We know that, right? He was part of a lot of both business and hockey decisions that happened in the organization. So no, I don't think it is too early to talk about. What do you think it means for them?
Well, I think so. Front office wise, I think it's been well established that he has his thoughts, right? Like you said, right? He shares his thoughts on hockey decisions and business decisions. I think in some ways, right, he's tried to push, right? He tried to get a new arena built. That fell through. So I think in some ways there is certainly some positives that he brought to the team. But I think on the flip side, he burned a lot of bridges with some players, with some, sharing his thoughts on things and pushing things. And so I think and also where and how money gets spent. And so I think where the ownership ends up will be a determining factor of the future path forward of this organization, where and how the ownership gets moved. And I haven't seen, I tried to dive into that today to see, would it go to family? Would, his estate, I know he has 2 daughters, kind of where that ends up. I think that's going to really determine the future of this team from both hockey and business. Or sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Hockey and business.
Yeah. And, we obviously the recent stuff is fresh in our memories, but when he took over this team in 2003, like they were not in a good place. They were going into bankruptcy. There was questions about whether or not they'd even be in Ottawa. So, and then he came in and bought them. So he did save the team. I think the team struggled recently. And I think that he was part of some of that. He wasn't part of all of it, but yeah, like you said, there were some issues there. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. At this point, we're just kind of waiting to see what the decision is going to be in terms of moving forward. I think there's going to be a grieving period, obviously, that they're going to take here. And we'll see kind of heading into the summer what the team decides to do. It sounds like Pierre Dorion is sticking around. Yeah.
And I think it's definitely not the time to make abrupt changes, right? If someone's willing to stick around, Pierre Dorion's done a fine enough job running that team. He started to turn it around. So let's give them the time to deal with just figuring out those changes. But I think one thing that you mentioning him buying the team and that, I think back to that and really how he was celebrated at the beginning. Right?
Yeah.
And kind of how that turned to where Ottawa fans were not as grateful for him as the owner. I think today is a good day to focus on those positives of what he did bring. Certainly mean, having a team that during his time, right, they made Stanley Cup, they made conference finals, like they had success. Certainly the last number of years, every team goes through struggles. It's just unfortunate that he was a part of leading to that. So I think it's a tough place for fans. I think just remember the good things. He kept your team there. And ultimately, I'd rather have a team than not.
Yeah, totally. And when I was reading about this, I saw that when he took over, the Ottawa Senators played in the Corel Center. And I thought, wow, I have not heard that name in a long time.
Everyone's favorite photo editing software from 2000.
Remember Corel?
1996?
Oh, man. Wasn't there a word processing software as well?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think there was. It was purple, if I remember correctly.
Ooh, that does sound about right. But also a good reminder, right? That like the placement of that team in that arena and the struggles that team has, not his fault.
No.
That was one of the things that stood out to me the most. I used to have family that lived right in Ottawa, and family that lived in Toronto, and driving from, I don't know if it's one to the other. I mean, you know the area better than me, but just like driving past that, and they're like, hey, that's where the Senators play. I'm like, here? Even back then, when I was like 10 years old, I knew that was a weird place for an arena.
Yeah, still is. I hate that arena, man. I hope they can get that arena deal done at some point.
Yeah, well,
it's brutal.
With everywhere else that can manage to get arenas done, you'd think that would work, but
you'd think. Ottawa's a weird city. Let's move on.
All right, let's move on to something. Speaking of weird, Evgenii Dadonov, you did not touch on this trade during the trade deadline special last week because there were so many of them, understandably. So a trade to the Anaheim Ducks, a team out of playoff contention, was not high on the list. But it is now.
So last week, I don't think I did touch on that trade. And I don't remember if I touched on this specific piece of information, but this I think is really cool. At the deadline at 3 p.m., there were 33. There were over 30 trades that had been submitted that hadn't been processed. So even by the time I was recording last week, I didn't really dive into any of those trades because I didn't really know about them. So I wasn't really clear on what was happening with this Dadonov thing. I knew a trade had happened. I didn't know what it was. And then I thought it was just stuck in this like this purgatory of post-deadline trades on the call. And so that's why I didn't touch on it. And then,
so the deadline was Monday. On Wednesday, the NHL came out and said that trade was vetoed, that trade would not take place after being cleared and approved by NHL Central Registry. Dadonov became an Anaheim Duck and then went back. Because apparently when he was traded from Ottawa to Vegas, there was confusion of if he did or did not submit his trade list to the Senators. Turns out he did. And the Anaheim Ducks were one of the teams on his no trade list, which was still in place when he went to San Jose. And by San Jose, I mean Vegas. He didn't go to San Jose. Which brings up so many questions. Like, does nobody keep track of these trade lists? Is it just like you send someone a text and you just got to go back and you're just scrolling through messages and you're like, did he send us a list? I don't see a list. Sorry, there's no list.
I just imagine it's when he's in to physically sign the contract, they give him like a legal pad and like a Sharpie. And they're like, here, write down your list of 10 teams. So it's just like a chicken scratch thing on scrunched up legal pad paper. And they maybe staple it to the contract after he signs it and file it away.
It's just paper clipped on there.
That's how, but like this whole situation is so ridiculous. That's legitimately what it seems like. Like, is that how they handled this? Is there no like formal filing of this paperwork?
There is no formal filing or tracking of this paperwork with the league. It is literally just between the player and the team, and whatever happens, happens. And unless the player brings it up and argues about it, it just happens.
Now, there was a lot of accusations thrown around last week. Vegas saying, oh, well, Ottawa didn't give us the trade list. And the league saying, well, we didn't know about it. I don't know, man. Like, first of all, Senators, you got to fork up all the pieces of the contract when you make the trade. You got to make sure it's all there. But also, Vegas, like, guys, come on. We're all on cap friendly. We know you guys are on cap friendly too. It says NT. Like, surely it's in the contract that there's a no trade. Did nobody read the contract and say, hey, where's this no trade clause? Where's this list?
Or like ask the guy's agent. Like, we're going to trade you. Did you submit a trade list to Ottawa? And if that person can't even figure out, the literal person who's paid to represent him, I think all bets are off.
So do you think what happened here was Vegas and Anaheim made the trade, filed it with the league? Vegas's GM, who is it? McCrimmon, I have it here. Kelly McCrimmon gets on the phone with Dadonov. Hey, you've been traded. Oh, okay. Great. That sucks. Whatever. Where am I going? Anaheim. And then at that point, do you think he just plays it cool? He's like, oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. Hangs up, call his agent. Hey, WTF, Anaheim. They were on my no trade list. Agent takes it from there. That's how I see it going.
I think it's pretty similar to that. Yeah. I think the trade happens. Vegas has no idea that the trade list is there because unlike you, they don't go to cap friendly. They trust their own internal sources more than cap friendly. So they go there, they make the trade, they celebrate because they just, first off, a terrible trade. Honestly, Vegas should be grateful that this trade got voided.
But they need the cap space.
But do they? Just wait till the playoffs. None of you guys, Max Pacioretty's hurt, Mark Stone's hurt, Robin Lehner's hurt. Like, and at least two of those are like legitimate, seem pretty big. So,
Carl, they have to make the playoffs to get into the playoffs. Like, they have to get there before they can violate the cap. And if some of these guys are ready to go, some of these guys that could legitimately help them get into the playoffs, they're probably like, okay, we got to bring these guys back. More so than Dadonov, although he's done quite well this week.
I was going to say, they lit a fire under him.
Yeah, no kidding.
But in all honesty, I don't put the blame for this on Ottawa. I don't put the blame on this. I put the blame more on Vegas, but I put the blame on the league for not having an actual process and way to track this. It's ridiculous that they approved a trade and then it took them 2 days to figure out that it should be voided.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Add it to the list of things the league should be embarrassed about.
Is there anything new? Did anything happen while I was gone that the league should be embarrassed about?
No, it's just, the regular stuff.
Just a running normal list. Yeah.
I think the last thing on the list is the fact that they couldn't get Gary Bettman an HD camera with a tripod set up in his house. Like, he just had to rely on his webcam laptop.
Speaking of which, before we move on to our next thing, this is the final week of the regular season in our fantasy hockey league. And why that reminded me is because my name is Gary's Kitchen Table. But you are 4 points to the good on making the fantasy playoffs.
This is the last week of the regular season?
This is the final week of the regular season.
I got to pay more attention because I was doing really well for a while and then I started doing not well again.
So I didn't see who you're playing this week. But you are 4 points up on ninth. I think that's likely the only team that can catch you is, I think it's, forget
LW.
Yeah. So I'm not sure who you're playing this week, but
Leonard.
Ooh, that could.
Oh no, who am I playing this week? Nard Dogs. I don't know who anyone is in the league. John.
You're playing Nard Dogs, and your competition is facing. So you're playing the 13th seed. He's playing the 12th seed. So this is your time to shine. Make it happen.
It's tight. I know you and I played each other a couple weeks ago, and I didn't bring it up on the air because it was embarrassing. You destroyed me.
It's gonna happen. All right. I'm currently the 3 seed. It's understandable that you're gonna lose the 3 seed sometimes. But one thing you did not, you did a lot last week. There was a lot happening trade deadline talk. But one thing you did not do was eliminate a team from the playoffs.
Correct.
Which means, I think, do we need to eliminate 2 this week?
Yeah. In fact, I may have promised it last week. I don't remember.
I think that was when I was trying to check my eggs at the grocery store. I did this. I think I mentioned I did well. I listened to the show while I was at the grocery store. I think that was when I was opening the eggs to see if they were cracked or not. So I was pretty distracted too.
Took a lot of brain power, eh?
And there was a point in time. I know you said something. You said something about you wanted to know my thoughts on Claude Giroux. But that was when I was paying. And you mentioned like 3 things at the same time that you wanted me to mention or to talk about. One was the Avs. I was fine with what the Avs did. The fact that they didn't get Giroux, fine with it. I mean, Lehkonen, he's all right. I like that he's got some term to him, which is something that I know Sakic doesn't like to give up stuff for nothing. Like you rarely see him make a move for a 1-year guy. And so that's exactly on brand with what he's been doing. Got a guy with some term to him and added some depth.
I just wanted them to be more exciting last week.
Literally last week, you got Nathan MacKinnon punching Matt Dumba, getting a concussion, and now out for indefinite amounts of time. How much more exciting did you want?
No, I meant going into the trade deadline, Carl.
Oh, not our captain.
Dumba versus McKinnon fight is pretty heavyweight stuff, though.
It is, and
it's not very often you see headline names like that going at it.
But you want our like most flashy player fighting someone, and that's not exciting enough for you. I think this is on you at this point.
Dumba versus McKinnon is like, it's like the hockey version of Will Smith versus Chris Rock. I was determined to find some way to bring up the slap. I was going to do it during the Dadonov thing and it just didn't work out.
Yeah. Is it though? I guess because Rantanen got hit by Dumba. I think it was Rantanen who got hit by Dumba. And then McKinnon went to his defense, hit Dumba. And then in the end, McKinnon, who did the hitting of Dumba, really came out for the worse.
So Dumba is Chris Rock in this snenario. He was telling the joke. He insulted McKinnon's teammate.
And he said, don't you put Mikko Rantanen's name in your mouth.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think it's a pretty great analogy. I think you pretty much nailed it.
I think so too. It worked better than the Dadonov situation.
Yeah. So it makes me sad because McKinnon's Will Smith in this and wasn't making the best choices.
Bit of an overreaction.
But hey, McKinnon's going to apologize. In the end, I guess, you know what I hope for though? Because Will Smith also took home one of the biggest prizes of the night. And if that part of the analogy comes true, I'm okay with it in the end.
That is true, Carl. Oh, we're gonna watch it now. We might have to call back to this moment.
Do you remember on March 29th at 6:01 Mountain Time when Nick predicted via the Chris Rock Will Smith thing that the Avalanche would win the Stanley Cup? It's wild, but it's happening.
Yeah, and probably McKinnon winning the Conn Smythe.
I guess that would be the best actor.
That would be the best actor. Just thank goodness he doesn't have to give a speech.
He can.
No,
we'll get a standing ovation for it. Apparently.
We don't need another one of those.
It was a weird night. It was a weird night.
It was a weird night. Are we going to eliminate someone?
Sure, why not?
All right, let's do it.
Elimination Station.
So what we're going to do here, let's eliminate 2. We'll start with 1. Let's see how much time it takes. We might get to 2. What we do here is we eliminate a team from the playoffs, then we figure out how to fix them. We've kind of had a problem of late. And I know you alluded to it a lot last week. Not just alluded to it, you mentioned it. The Eastern Conference is pretty much locked down. And hasn't gotten any less locked down. Perhaps we eliminate a team from the West finally this week. It's been a while. Do you want to recap the teams that are currently eliminated from the playoffs?
I do. And then I think I might have an idea. Okay, so far we've eliminated the Coyotes, the Canadiens, the Flyers, the Kraken, the Blackhawks, the Sabres, the Devils, the Senators, the Sharks, and the Red Wings.
Okay.
So that's 4 teams from the Atlantic. That's 2 from the Metro, 2 from the Central, and 2 from the Pacific.
Sorry, the Central teams are the Coyotes and the Kraken. Yes.
And the Blackhawks. The Kraken are Pacific.
Yes. Kraken are, yeah. Coyotes, Blackhawks, Sharks, Kraken out to the Pacific, and lots of teams in these other divisions. So what's your idea? You got a good one.
Well, if we're going to do 2, let's do an easy one. We'll do an Eastern Conference team, but then I think we should force ourselves to choose a Central Division team.
Ooh, that is tough because we're not even going. Because have we done the Ducks? We did.
No, we have not done the Ducks.
Huh. Good on them.
You wanted to do the Sharks.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to do the Sharks.
It's true.
So we're gonna do a team from the East. And then challenge mode, a team from apparently the Central. Which means like one of like Jets, Stars, Preds. Let's start with the easy one.
Let's start with the easy one.
I'm not ready for that yet. Kind of 3. We say the team we wish to eliminate from.
We already eliminated them.
There's only 2 teams left in the East. It's the Jackets and the Islanders.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Everyone else is eliminated.
Yeah. I can be ready.
3, 2, 1.
New York Islanders. I knew we were going to say the opposite. Because it really doesn't matter. So, of course, this is the thing we would fight over.
Correct. Yes. It doesn't matter. None of these teams are going to make it.
No.
The Jackets are 15 points back of the Capitals with 16 games left. So here's what we're going to do. I've got a number in my head. If you go under or match that number, we do the Islanders. If you go over, we do the Jackets.
Okay. Is a number between like 1 and 100 or something?
1 and 10.
Oh, 1 and 10. That's a much smaller range.
So if you pick a number, lower or match, I'm gonna show you. I got my fingers up.
Okay. Ready? Number 8. 3. All right, so we're doing the Jackets.
We're doing the Jackets.
That's fine.
Welcome to the Elimination Station, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Also, I could not have made a more confusing way for us to settle that.
You could have just agreed with me, Carl. Somehow you always get your way in this.
That's not true.
That's why I think you lied about the finger thing.
I didn't. I had 3 out. But look, if you want to talk about trust issues, then we can have something to fight about.
All right, Columbus Blue Jackets. What's going on here? What's up with this team? Let's see. I don't even know who plays for this team anymore.
It's Patrick Laine, Zach Werenski, and that's about it. Elvis.
Yeah, their goalies kind of stink though.
So I think this is the biggest issue with this team was the fall off. And I mean, just an entire collapse of team around them, right? As people left and continued to leave. But like their goaltending was not what it once was.
No, and neither is their defense, but I hesitate to put too much of this on the defense. Like their defense really didn't change that much, right? Seth Jones, sure, a big piece. But like if he's having the year he's having this year in Chicago, then I don't know. Maybe they're not in such a different place. But
this year, Seth Jones, it's not that big of a loss.
This team is ranked 29th in goals against.
That's a problem.
Yeah. The only teams who have allowed more goals in them this season are the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings.
Do you have easy access to this? Because that makes me question then. Like, because they have about a 900 team save percentage, right? Just a little bit under 899. So yeah. Like, they're giving up a lot of shots. They're also not stopping as many as they should. But with them being as high as they are, where's their scoring at in the whole league?
I'm going to tell you.
Because that's what's interesting to me. Because so Patrick Laine came in, they sent Pierre-Luc Dubois the other way back to Winnipeg. They brought in Jake Voracek, who's like not really doing anything this year. I mean, he has 5 goals, right? Scoring is not coming from him. And it's really that collection of depth that this team had, which is what made them so successful. They've really kept that up, right? Like Oliver Bjorkstrand and Boone Jenner and kind of those pieces have still maintained. They've just lost everything around them.
Yeah, they're ranked 13th in the league in goals for.
Which, if you were to tell me that a team that had Oliver Bjorkstrand and Boone Jenner as their second and third leading goal scorers would be 13th in the league, I would be shocked.
It's actually pretty impressive. You know who they're tied with? The Vegas Golden Knights.
At the start of the year, if that was put to me, I would take significant betting odds on Vegas.
Right? I don't know. It's crazy. So that leads me to believe add a top 4 defenseman and upgrade your goaltending, and boom, you're back in the conversation here.
That might be all that you need.
Which is crazy because they just got rid of a top 4 defenseman. And I mean, it's not their fault that they lost Bobrovsky, but they had him at one point.
Absolutely. If you put Seth Jones and Sergei Bobrovsky back on this team, this is a playoff team.
Right?
100% though.
That's just so crazy. They're like 3 years removed from that. And then this year they were like, we're not going to be good. We better start moving some of our big guys.
Well, and so this year, they have Chicago's first overall pick, not first round pick, sorry, which is only top 2 protected. So they've got that. They've got really not much else for picks, because you still go back to the fact that, 3 years ago, they cleaned house to try to win with Panarin, Bobrovsky before they both left, trying to keep them around. And they traded a lot of picks in that. And so they're still kind of trying to reset, which explains why there's not as much ready to come up, because they traded multiple years worth of assets for them.
They're probably the most interesting team that we've done so far, in that it can really go either way. Because the other thing that they have is cap space. Like they can do something. Whether they want to try and go, like, I know Columbus isn't the most desirable place for free agents, but if they can go lure a free agent in, they have the space to do that. If they want to bring in a big contract on a trade, like obviously Jack Eichel's been traded, but something of that stature, they can be in on that conversation. If they don't want to do that, if they want to weaponize it in a different way and take on a bad contract to collect draft picks, they can do that too. Or a good prospect.
Yeah, I think, definitely, if there's a team like a Vegas, right? They should be the ones calling, being like, hey, are we on Dadonov's no trade list? Like, can we get him?
Yeah, they have options.
They do. This is one. I also think that this is a prime situation and a good setting for, the first name that came to my mind is a guy who's like been a healthy scratch this past week, but would still command a pretty reasonable price tag on the free agent market, but I think of like a Sean Monahan coming here would be a great spot for them.
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, clearly not as desired around the league, having a very down season, 2 seasons, but it's a low risk for them, right?
Totally.
Spend the money, try to bounce back.
And they've still got room to go and, plug one of the holes that we just mentioned, whether it's on defense or just figure something out goaltending wise.
Yeah. So what do you think they try to do? Do they try to make some moves, make some things happen to get someone in? Or do they kind of let it ride, wait for some prospects and actually do a fuller rebuild?
No, I think they're going to try and bring someone in. I think they're going to try and bring a goalie in particular, like maybe Georgiev, someone who's not really a full starter, but who has the potential. Because the thing is with their goalie, like they're committed to Elvis at this point.
Yes.
They've got him signed long-term. So you got to do something there to get him going. And I think bringing in like a quote unquote 1B to really challenge him and also to pick up the slack when he's having an off year like this, like I think that could go a long way for them.
I also do think that the passing of their goaltender at the start of the year had a significant impact on especially Elvis and Korpisalo. So
good point.
I think I would try, I know it's very difficult, but I would try not to look too much into this year's sample size when evaluating them into the future.
Yeah, good point.
So there it is. Columbus Blue Jackets, you're welcome. We've given you the path forward. We're going to take a break here. On the other side, we're off to pick a second team for the Elimination Station. Three, 2, 1.
If you don't want to do a Central team, we can do a Pacific team.
No, I'm fine to do a Central team. It's
going to be hard.
It is going to be hard. I know that like we go to the Pacific and I'm fairly certain that we 3-2-1 Ducks. But we also, we might need to eliminate 2 teams next week. Maybe we do 2 teams in the West next week.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the playoffs are coming fast.
So I'm fine with this Central. Let's challenge ourselves. Clearly, none of the teams we've currently put in the Elimination Station are coming out. There's 0 chance of it. Like the team closest to a playoff spot is the Sharks, 10 points out. And that's not happening.
Correct.
So let's challenge ourselves.
So here's the thing about the Central. I'm just going to rattle off the standings quickly, okay? 1, 2, 3 is Colorado with 98 points, Minnesota with 84, St. Louis with 81. Okay, so Colorado's got a pretty hefty lead there. I think they've got this.
Very likely that they win the division, yes.
Very likely. Okay, so those are the 1, 2, 3. Now, Nashville is next. They're in the first wildcard spot with 80 points.
Wait, I just want to point out one thing before you get to the rest. The distance from Colorado to Minnesota is more than the distance from Minnesota in second all the way down to Winnipeg in sixth.
That's where I was going with this. So I'll put this out there. I'm not going to say Minnesota's name, but it's certainly a debate that could be had. Any of the teams below Colorado in this division, I think right now, we could argue it, whether they make it or not.
Absolutely. It could be, the case could be made for sure.
So that being said, we've got Minnesota, St. Louis, Nashville, Dallas, and Winnipeg.
So one of those 5 teams is getting into the Elimination Station today. Do you know where you're going? Yes.
I think I know where I'm going to. Okay,
right.
I'll count us down this time since you did it last time. So we do a lot of counting out on the show, hey? Okay. Mm-hmm. 3, 2, 1.
Winnipeg
Dallas
Ducks.
Stars. Oh, man, I thought we were going to be on the same page that time.
I thought so too. Here's my reasoning. And it's very minor. And the reason is small. This is literally the tiebreaker that I had in my head. One team actually made moves at the trade deadline to improve their team, and the other one didn't.
That's totally fair. My reasoning was I hate the Dallas Stars and I don't want them to make the playoffs. So
it's a good reason.
So yeah, yours is grounded a little more in the numbers than mine is.
You know what though? We're going to trust those emotions. We're going to eliminate the Dallas Stars.
Yes. Goodbye, Dallas. Goodbye, Jamie Benn. Did you see what Jamie Benn did last week?
No, but it was probably something dumb.
He took out a guy at the knees. I'm trying to even remember what team it was. I don't remember, but he took out a guy in the knees below the goal line and just crushed him into the boards. This guy, man, shameless.
Let's park there for a second. Jamie Benn watch. Last week, you recorded podcast episode 372, meaning that this is episode number 373 today.
Okay.
When we recorded episode 300, Jamie Benn was sitting on 300 goals. We've gotten 73 episodes since then. What has Jamie Benn done? 27.
We're going to destroy you, Jamie Benn.
Now, if we assume, here's the part that's going to help him. We're going till July, maybe the end of July. So that's April, May, June, July. Let's say 16 more episodes, 17, making a nice round number. I think we might end at 390 episodes. Let's say. Does Jamie Benn catch us?
Okay, first of all, we have to pull up their Cap Friendly page anyways to have this discussion. So let's check how much time is left on Jamie Benn's deal. He's got a few years left.
He does. Jamie Benn is also only 32 years old. He is 63 goals short of 390. I think Jamie Benn will pass us. I think he can score 63 goals, and it pains me to say this.
Oh, man. But he's not even scoring. He's barely scoring 20 goals this season.
Let's say he scores. He could easily get to 20 this year.
I know.
He's 4 shy. So
this is going to happen, isn't it?
If he plays, even if he does 15 goals a season, or he does 20, 16, 12, 8, he's going to get there.
That's painful.
But hey, much like one of the books that I did read when I was away, had an interview with Don Shula, coach of the perfect Miami Dolphins team. If Jamie Benn retires with less goals than us, we'll pop a bottle of champagne to celebrate.
If and when we should hop on for one more episode.
You know what? That's when we unretire. When Jamie Benn hits 390 goals, we fired the machine back up and we're just popping out episode after episode. Just 5-minute ones.
3 times a week, baby.
Exactly. Just to make sure that Jamie Benn, and it'll be what's Jamie Benn done today? Nothing. All right. See you next week.
You know what, Carl? I am that spiteful. I would do it.
It's gonna be good. But now that his stupid Jamie Benn and the stupid Dallas Stars have been eliminated from the playoffs, what do you think you could foresee this team doing to get back in the playoffs?
They're not far off. This is the thing, right? They extended Joe Pavelski, which I think was a good move for them. Because it's one move at $5.5 million. That is so low risk for them and for this player with what he is doing and what he means to this team. It's worth it.
They almost had to bring him back.
Yes.
He's been great for the Stars his entire time that he's been there. And when you've got they went out and again, fairly short-term deal, but Alex Radulov with what he's producing for this team now, when you have an older player being able to produce the way Pavelski is, who's willing to come back, you got to do it.
Yeah. But there are going to be some, like Klingberg is gone next year. And we know that he's gone. Like it's been out there that him and the team are not close on a new deal.
I mean, he asked for a trade.
He asked for a trade.
Couldn't make it happen. So he's for sure gone. Yeah.
So he's for sure gone. So there's a hole to fill there. And then you brought up Radulov. Like, I'm assuming they're going to bring him back, but his contract's up too. He's 35. You give him the Pavelski deal. You go 1 year now until he can't do it anymore.
Yes, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks entirely. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is Alex Radulov's last year in the NHL.
But that's another big hole that they're going to have to fill.
They've been trying to fill that hole all season. And one thing that has been interesting is the pretty sudden emergence of Jason Robertson as a very, very talented player that for this team. And I mean, you know, former second round pick, came in last year in a tough season, performed well. And with the amount of quality role players that this team has, he has gone up from that like Rupe Hintz level of guy that I kind of assumed he was to
the next
leader.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, they've got their next kind of pieces in place. Like, you know, they've got their transition set up to go from Sagan and Benn to the next guys. Although like Sagan and Benn aren't going anywhere fast. These guys are locked in for a while still.
I was going to say Tyler Sagan will be there for quite some time. Jamie Benn a little bit less, but like still 3 more years.
Yeah. But they're just not going to be the same quality of players that they've been their entire careers. I mean, they're not already. Like, we're already starting to see that in them, I think. So they're going to need this next crop of young players, Robertson, Hintz, to start taking on those leadership roles.
I think what's interesting is this approach that we've seen the Stars take the last number of years, right? Joe Pavelski, even Radulov to a degree, Ryan Suter coming in. Like, they are a team, Braden Holtby coming in. They're a team, they're not going to make a free agent splash. They are the ones that are going to go out, and they've been signing veteran after veteran to shorter term, like 1, 2, 3 year deals, bring them in and let them have a chance to re-energize and thrive. And I find it interesting that they've had success with that, because if you were to tell me that they'd brought in all of them, I wouldn't think that they would be a fringe playoff team.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the counterbalance to that is these young players we just talked about kind of overperforming what we thought their potential was. I don't know. Like, I look at this team and I see the like Minnesota Wild of 5 years ago. It just feels like mediocrity. And it feels like there's not any kind of change in either direction to that mediocrity.
Okay. I can understand that. I think that it could very easily become a situation where they're kind of mired in that middle pack, where they continue to fight for a playoff spot, but can never really get better. Absolutely see that. Now, Jake Ottinger having a great season, that's going to be, for me, that's the biggest question.
Yeah.
If he can do what he's done this year into next year.
Totally.
Because this was a team, right? Anton Khudobin, Ben Bishop, Braden Holtby. You had all these pieces. They all went down for various reasons. Ottinger stepped up.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's young. I don't know, man. Goalies. Who knows?
I think that's all the analysis that you need to be able to come up with there.
Who knows, right? Like, he's 23 years old. He's having a great year, sure, but they're not all going to be great like that. So I find with goalies coming in that hot, it's a bit of a roller coaster in the following years.
Yeah, we'll see. They're going to ride him. They're going to give him that chance. I think they'll bring.
Might as well.
Yeah, we'll see if they bring back a Holtby, because his deal is up after this year. Ben Bishop's retired, so see what they come up with. But
yeah.
So do you think you kind of alluded to them similar to the Wild. Do you think that this team makes the playoffs next year? Now that we've eliminated them?
No. I don't. I mean, there's still so many variables that could, like, it depends on whether they're going to go and backfill Radulov $6.25 million with. Like, you can get a quality player at 6.25.
Well, if you combine so money leaving this team, Radulov 6.25, Klingberg at 4.25, so that's $10.5 million. You've got Braden Holtby's contract, which they're paying only $2 million of, but still, so that's $12.5 million. And $1.5 million cut on Pavelski's deal. So that's $14 million that they're freeing up next year. Also, we didn't really touch on it because it's almost irrelevant. NHL salary cap going up by $1 million next year. So those three, that's $15 million of space that they have to replace three players. Very easy to do.
It's an extra $1 million that you can give to Sean Monahan.
Turns out we've got a lot. Should we be Sean Monahan's agent at this point?
I don't know, but I feel like he'd be a good fit on this team. I think their number one priority has to be defense, right? They got to go find a defenseman.
Absolutely. They do. Yeah. They with Klingberg leaving, right? They've kind of been piecing together a defense the last number of years. I think of Alex Olgowski coming there, and Esa Lindell's been great for them. I think that's a great piece for them to hold on to. Heiskanen hurt, but I think that defense is actually going to be pretty okay in the end.
It'll be an interesting one to watch. I'm calling Minnesota Wild 5 years ago.
Well, and you know what? It could be if they've got money to spend in free agency, they're going to spend it. That's one thing we do know. They're not going to sit around. Yeah,
and they should. But you also look at the teams that they're up against in their division too, and in their conference. And it's going to be a good conference. There's going to be a good division for a long time.
There's a lot of really good teams there for sure.
It's super competitive.
All right. Well, sorry, Dallas. Bad news for you. You're out of the playoffs. And that brings us to the end of this week's Elimination Station. It's time to hand out a prize.
Yeah. I didn't do it last week.
No. The trade, well, that's because when you were recorded, they were still processing trades, little did we know.
Yeah, true enough.
And turns out that list that I used to get the 20 names, a lot of them didn't get dealt. That we thought would, right?
Yeah.
Phil Kessel, not dealt. Jeff Petrie, right? For Montreal Cleaning House, I mean, they got great returns, but his injury really put a squash on that.
Yeah.
Braden Holtby as well. So some pieces didn't get moved that probably could have, should have. However, the winner, and he's actually now, I think what we need is someone to step up and steal the title from him, because after winning the last high sticking round, Jordan Godaro shows up and wins the trade deadline contest as well.
Good stuff.
So some fantastic prognosticating on his behalf. So at the same time, thanks. So at the same time of sending the jersey, we'll be sending out a hat his way. And you know what? I think we need more of those contests. I'm gonna try to think of something, but it was fun being able to have a little mini contest, hand out some prizes.
Yeah, and it was relevant too.
Absolutely. So we'll see as we get into the playoffs. I mean, we're going to do a bracket. That's going to be a prize.
Oh, yeah. Playoff brackets is one of my favorite things.
It's tough. I mean, we're still dealing with the fallout. Do you do a March Madness bracket?
No.
We're still some people are still dealing with that fallout there. We'll see. We'll see what happens come playoff time. We've got lots. We've still got 18 more episodes, soon to be 17 once we finish recording this. But congratulations to Jordan. We'll get that out to you shortly. High sticking. Do you want to know who's leading this current round of high sticking?
I do.
It's actually one of the three Last time I checked, one of the three, and I did not get the last 2 days. I should do that tonight before we get new games in there tomorrow. But without using the last 2 games in there, Adam Cull is leading the standings by a pretty healthy chunk.
Nice.
Over what is a 3-way tie for second. So congrats to Adam. But Matt, TC Pittman, the real Scott, they're all sitting right there. So what we're doing here is we're picking the must-watch game every day of the week. You head over to Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and you predict who you think will win and what you think the score of the game will be. If you get the winner right, you get a point. Also makes you eligible for each score the other teams have. You can get 1 point, 1 bonus point for each of those, leaving you with 3 points possible per night. We do it every day. Every day we're going to pick, unless we like miss a day and release the episode a day late, and then we don't do it on this equivalent of the day. So,
oh yeah, we didn't do a game tonight.
We didn't do a game tonight, which is fine. We'll be back. Don't you worry, listeners. So,
everyone gets a night off every once in a while.
Everyone gets a night off every once in a while. It's fine.
So tomorrow's
Wednesday, March 30th.
I got one.
Hit us.
LA Edmonton.
I'm for it.
Where were you going?
Yeah, that's fine. Great. I mean, LA's put themselves into a playoff spot. That is the only matchup of 2 playoff teams right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we never pick LA.
I know. We haven't given LA enough credit for what they've been doing this year.
Yeah. Talk about it another time.
I think in LA plays a back-to-back, an Alberta road trip, but the one that's got my eye, another top playoff teams, Pittsburgh, Minnesota.
Yeah, that's the game. Agreed.
If there was a playoff race, the game would be Columbus and the Islanders as they fight to make that, but it's not.
April 1st. April 1st is April Fool's.
Mm-hmm.
Should we pick a joke game? Like a game that's just going to be a joke?
Like Detroit, Ottawa?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
The game's going to be awful.
It's going to be, I mean, good luck trying to pick the score of that game. After the Red Wings gave up 11 this week.
Yeah. They've given up 11 goals, 10 goals, 7, 9. They're all over the map. So, yeah, let's make it hard for you guys.
I do like that Nedeljkovic just wrote on his blocker this week. Just have fun. Just go out there, just have fun. Just a nice reminder to himself.
And then they lost by letting in 11 goals.
It's going to happen. A lot of good games on Saturday. Pittsburgh, Colorado. We already had Pittsburgh once. We've got Kings, Jets again. Wild Hurricanes, Blues, Flames. Where are you thinking?
Oh, I'm thinking Blues, Flames.
There it is. Blues, Flames on Saturday. That's back-to-back Saturdays with the Flames as the game. Sunday, we've got the rematch. Now the Red Wings are in Ottawa for the game.
I don't know if we can do that twice, Carl. That's just mean at this point. That's not a funny joke anymore.
No, it's just torturing our listeners.
Like Will Smith might come and slap us for that.
Ooh. Don't want that.
Twice didn't need to happen. I'm sorry.
No need. Playoff teams matchup. There's only one that features 2 playoff teams, and that is Minnesota, Washington.
I mean, that could be a good game, actually.
Minnesota's got a tough schedule this week. Pittsburgh and Washington, they're not. They might hit the elimination station next week.
Could be.
And Monday night. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Nope.
All right. Skip ahead.
Nope. Let's go Monday. Oh,
Monday has one game to choose.
Yeah. Toronto, Tampa
on Monday. Those are the games of the week. Head on over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4 in there. Pick who you think is going to win each of those games. Have some fun. We'll talk about it hopefully we can give you some points. Be smart and you get points. Be less than smart, you don't get points. That's how the game works. What's the game this week that literally Colorado, Vancouver. That was a disappointing game. No one picked Vancouver to win that game, which is fine because I didn't want to give any people points after that game.
Is that one of the games I picked for this week?
Yeah.
I feel like I picked some pretty good games this week.
You did. You did great. I mean, you were by yourself too. You were rattled. You were probably mentally drained. You gave a full 50 minutes.
Hey, I didn't pick a single Red Wings game for anyone to watch. So,
and then we came back and we did it. Almost
on
twice.
April Fools.
We almost did it twice. It's gonna be great. Anyways, people aren't gonna know if that's actually the game or not, which is great. If they haven't listened to the episode by then, they'll be like, "What is this real?" You'll find out when they listen. Also, thefourthlinepodcast.com, Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure to subscribe. So we are waiting for you every day. We'll be back on Monday next week unless something crazy happens. Maybe it's Nick's turn to be on the beach, and I'll just talk for 50 minutes without my guitar because I don't have one. I might, if you leave, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to buy a recorder, and that's what I'm going to use.
Oh, God. Don't, please.
If you leave me alone, that's the kind of content our listeners are going to get.
The recorder is like the worst sound in the world.
It's great. So that's what's going to happen. You've inspired me to take up an instrument.
Okay. Well, I apologize to your ears, listeners.
It's going to be great. Or bagpipes. Can you do a single note? I guess you can do notes on a bagpipe. That's really what they're for.
If you learn to play bagpipes, I'd be super impressed.
Maybe I'll just get an app that can play the notes for a bagpipe. It seems like a lot of work for one episode. I know you did some prep, and I would have to as well for a recorder, but bagpipes, I can't do that circular breathing.
That'd be next level. That'd be like the guitar is like Rupe Hintz, but the bagpipes is like Jason Robertson.
And the recorder is Alexander Radulov.
And no, like the recorder is like Braden Holtby.
No, I don't think either of those is accurate because at one point both of those were really good, and the recorder never was.
It's always been bad.
You don't know who the equivalent of the recorder is because like they played a couple of games and never really had a career.
Yeah, everyone's like, my ears are bleeding. Don't play them again.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks for tuning in this week. I'm glad to be back, Nick. Thanks for having me back. See ya.
I'm glad to have you back, but it's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. If you're playing high sticking, don't be procrastinating because you're playing against Jordan, who's good at prognosticating.